There is a lot of money in F1, and the more there is at stake, the more f***ery can be expected as parties try to manipulate the system to gain an advantage. Whether it's an F1 team trying to reverse an unfavorable decision made by the stewards, or a circuit operator trying to persuade the sport to visit the track during the race calendar. And unfortunately, F1 is no stranger to these scandals. In fact, they're pretty f***ing common.
No, Mikey, no, Mikey, that was so not right.
And with all this f***ery happening, the main question I usually ask myself is, well, who the f***'s in charge? For a pretty straightforward sport, drivers just going around in a circle half a dozen times with very strict rules and extremely similar cars, the power structure among the sport is not so clear. There are so many parties you have to account for. The teams have quite a bit at stake. The drivers have a lot to say usually, some more than others. The sponsors have quite a bit of leverage. And then there's the question of who actually owns the damn sport. I have no f***ing clue. So therefore, today I decided to put it all to bed and figure out what is the real power structure in this sport. Who runs what, who reports to who, and who has the ultimate say. Let's begin. Starting with the ordinary, you and me, the viewers. Now for what it's worth, as in any sport, the viewers have quite a lot of power. If we suddenly collectively disagree with a sporting decision or a change to the regulation, by using public channels or just simply by stopping watching the sport, we can have a lot of influence. I'm hoping for once we'll collectively let Red Bull know how shit one of their drivers is, but it doesn't seem like we're very hurt at the moment. Or maybe it's just me. And that's sort of the problem of the viewers. We're not very coordinated, are we? If some of us clearly understand that Logan is just a diversity hire and is at Williams only to have some leverage with the Americans, some of us are fucking clueless to that. Since there's no way to unite our opinions and have some sort of control, it is very difficult to actually utilize the bargaining power that we have. And thus, although we can have some impact on the decisions made, we cannot consistently execute some plan or agenda if we would like. So, unsurprisingly, we're at the bottom of the fucking food chain. Moving on to our beloved teams. As a collective, the teams have a lot of influence on both the regulators and then the management of the sport itself. If Toto, Freddie and Zach decided to have lunch together and had something against a new sporting regulation or the amount of pay they're getting, F1 will fucking listen. Similarly, as with us, the plebeians, there's this matter of coordination that must happen in order for this control to be enforced. Luckily for teams, they each have a team principal that can just call each other up in the middle of the night, cry about their problems, and after a few rounds of scotch, find some middle ground. The viewers can't really do that. Or it would just take a lot of scotch. Therefore, the teams, named the actual team principals, can have a lot of bargaining power with the Formula 1 group, but they're pretty weak if they just act alone. Within the team, there are also other entities, such as the drivers. All they can do is cry publicly if they don't like something. But the drivers actually have the best chance to unite sponsors and especially viewers on an issue, since these days they automatically become a fucking influencer as soon as they step into that F1 car. Maybe not all of them. Moving on to a huge number of other independent companies that have some sort of commercial tie to the sport. Of course, there's a million types of these, but I'll only cover the biggest, which are the sponsors. These are the blokes that sit on a company board of a multi-billion-dollar company that have decided to spend the hard-earned money of their employees on some pretty logos to be put on the arse of Max Verstappen. Sounds like a great investment to me. While most of the smaller sponsors don't have a lick of bargaining power, and similarly as with teams and viewers, they can unite on a particular problem and then boycott either the team or the whole sport. For example, if F1 suddenly announces that they're going electric, I would say there would be a bit of uproar happening. But that's a topic for another video. However, compared to viewers and teams, some sponsors are so fucking huge, they can individually force their opinion down the throat of a team. For example, if Oracle suddenly opens their eyes and realizes that a monkey would do better behind the wheel than Perez, Red Bull would change him very fucking quickly. Especially since it happens to be true. And same goes for the Formula 1 group as a whole. If Apple gives the sport $500 million a year, Stefano will fucking listen to what Tim Cook has to say. If I was on the board of a company like that, I would make sure to remind the teams that they're my bitch every now and again. For example, Fred and his team would all suddenly have to change their iconic red to wearing an ugly blue for one of the Grand Prix, just for the fun of it. Oh wait. And now, moving on to the actual big boys in the sport, the Formula One group, or in short, their owners, which is Liberty Media. These guys actually have a lot of power over the whole sport, because they are the ones that control the money. Majority of the income goes straight to Liberty Media, which is then distributed based on previously made agreements with the teams, and then they pay out to drivers and all the other boys and girls they employ. Therefore, Liberty essentially has all the control over the commercial aspect of the sport. Of course, all the previously mentioned parties have a bargaining power and can pressure the group into doing or undoing some of its actions, but they really have to do something f***ed up in order for that to happen. So in that sense, it's a done deal, right? Liberty Media are the de facto controlling power of F1. Well, one important entity we are forgetting here is the FIA. The FIA actually own the sport, officially. Liberty Media just f***ing leases the rights to organize the sport. So it's like, if you suddenly open a coffee shop, and thanks to the amazing location, have all these amazing customers coming in and business is booming, well, you have to realize that I own the building you're leasing. If I want you out, you're out. If I want the coffee to be blue instead of black, you might argue with me, but I have the full rights to regulate. In this case, the sport. So, yeah. Stefano can play the big shot CEO all he wants, but if a certain someone by the name of Mohammed Ben Sulayem decides that you're balding too quickly to be the CEO of the sport, you'll be swapped out pretty quickly. If you wonder who really controls F1, maybe you should just look around the paddock a bit more. You've likely seen this man numerous times. For example, he is usually the first person the F1 drivers talk to when they win their Grand Prix. Or when the CEOs of multinational giants, or just heads of state, need someone to chat to, they usually talk to him. So yeah, I think that about answers that. See you next week.